This is what happens when a man doesn't listen to his wife. I got some new toys in the shop, and while looking for project ideas to use them, Paige asked me to make her some coasters.
Coasters? Coasters? What do I look like, an Etsy store?
So I went to Etsy to start looking for coaster inspiration, and I came up with a better idea. There's a bare spot on the wall, and we've had this old clock kicking around for quite some time. Little did I know how great my better idea wasn't. If only I would have just listened to my wife. Welcome back to Inheritance Machining. This is a regulator clock, as in that's the brand, but it does regulate time pretty well. It's going to be the donor for this project, and before you get offended, this isn't an historic model. It was found on a roadside sale for $15, and as it turns out, it was made in Korea in the 1970s, so I don't feel so bad about it. But now my idea. I like clocks, but in my opinion, they tend to hide the coolest part, the movement, inside. So I want to take everything in here and move it to where you can actually admire it. But I still need a way to tell time, so let's face it. No, really, I'm going to need a face on it. After getting a killer selfie, I took a picture of the clock and brought this into Onshape. With the image import tool, I was able to make a scaled reference model of the clock's movement. Then after converting the image in my head to this monstrosity and deciding I absolutely hated this project, Paige stepped in. I'm not kidding. Onshape is so easy to use that my wife, who hasn't modeled anything in probably a decade, was able to pick it up in a matter of minutes, by herself. At least enough to take my model from this to this. How about that for a sales pitch? Go sign up for a free account of Onshape at the link below. After some final tweaks, we arrived at this. There's an unnumbered brass ring, because we all know what those dots mean. A circular mesh pattern that is more or less a bastardization of sacred geometry and lets you see through to the workings behind. Some standoffs to support the face, then a nice rich wooden back panel that in my opinion is the walnut on top. Walnut because it's walnut. So let's join everything in holy matrimony. And like any good wedding, I'm going to use something old, something new, something borrowed, and something that rhymes with blue. I'll figure that out later. But first, the something old. The pantograph. It's from the 1960s, so I think it counts. It works by moving the cutter in unison with where I move the stylus, so I can basically make any pattern I can imagine. I'm liking the idea of using it to engrave the different elements of the face plates. To do that though, I need a pattern for the stylus to follow, which is a perfect job for the something new. I got a 3D printer. Now I'm sure there's a mixture of emotions in the audience. It was a confusing decision for me as well, if I'm being honest, but bambulab wanted to sponsor a video, so I thought, let's see what the fuss is all about. This is the X1 Carbon, and there's a high likelihood that almost everyone watching already knows more about this machine than I do. Before about a week ago, I literally never interacted with a printer in my life. But I think this gives me a unique perspective. Right off the bat, I can tell you one thing is certain. bambulab makes this whole experience easy. I had enough time to get this thing set up, get my first print going, and film it all before the family even got up for the day. And for my first print, I'm just kidding. I refused to make one of these. Instead, I made this. Yep, I've started down the Gridfinity rabbit hole. With the MakerWorld model browser built into the Bamboo Studio slicer program, literally within a few clicks, the printer is spewing molten plastic into the shape of whatever I want. It's so arousing to watch, I have to keep towels handy. For the glass. But what's most impressive about all this is, it just works. I don't know how, but every single print I've done so far has been a success. Shop organization stuff, things for my wife, or more things for my wife. There's no doubt that my success is due to cool features like auto bed leveling that uses both force sensors and LiDAR to validate the print bed, vibration and extrusion compensation, and AI-driven first layer inspection and spaghetti failure detection. I'm not even convinced the last two are needed at this point, but it does give peace of mind. Combine all this with the helpful warnings Bamboo Studio offers as you slice your model, I pretty quickly had the confidence to try my own designs. Like these Gridfinity Allen key holders that keep everything pointed in the same direction, trials of my own merchandise, and the pantograph patterns we came here to print in the first place. I can't forget about the AMS unit that automatically switches the filament as needed for color and material changes, which I'm just starting to dip my toes into. Successfully, I might add. I may be new to this whole deal, mostly out of my own stubbornness, but consider me a changed man. It's clear to me that bambulab's focus is making the user experience of 3D printing the best it can be, and as someone who just wants prints to work without a bunch of fuss, I couldn't recommend them more. Head to the link in my description to check out bambulab's X1 Carbon or the equally impressive P1 and A1 series of printers. That's the patterns finished, but we aren't quite ready to use them on the pantograph. Obviously, we have some setup ahead of us. First, we have to prep the blank. So after taping some sacrificial Lexan underneath, cutting it down to a more manageable size, and a full-on pucker moment at the drill press, the blank is mounted. The pattern mounts up here, but you might notice something is a little off. It's significantly larger than the part I'm trying to make. 1.5 times larger to be exact. There's a reason though. This particular pantograph isn't capable of 1-to-1 duplication. The best it can do is 1.5 to 1. The features are all flat, so I'll chuck up an 1/8 inch end mill, and because of the 1.5 scaling factor, I'll have to whip up a quick stylus that is 1.5 times the diameter of the end mill. Then, after all that, I can slap the pattern on here and discover none of this is going to work. You see, what I failed to consider is that with the 1.5 scaling, the cutter has to be pretty close to the stylus. So close, in fact, that when I sweep to the farthest side of the pattern, the cutter actually ends up over the pattern as well, which is a big no bueno. But it's not a completely lost cause. After a bit of tinkering, I think I came up with something that will work. This. It's a bit jank, but I'll be able to at least cut half the plate at a time. Realigning everything might be a bit of a hassle, but I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. Let's give it a go. Well, that didn't take long. It would help if I raised the spindle before haphazardly whipping it around. Luckily, I have precisely one more end mill this size to get through everything else. To this point, most of this has probably been self-explanatory, but you might be wondering why some of the dots on the pattern have been replaced with holes. I'll give you a hint. It's because they'll be holes. But I'm only center drilling them for now. And the larger dots, well, they need a smaller end mill and a matching smaller stylus to fit inside the smaller gaps. Now for that bridge. And I'm really hoping this works, but I should be able to line up on the holes I center drilled in the first half of the ring. There's potential for a little bit of error lining things up this way, but as long as it's not a visual amount of error, I'll be happy. Aside from some small oversights, that worked perfectly. My pairing of old and new technologies created something that otherwise would have been a pain in the ass to make. But it's not finished yet. Remember the holes? Well, those are for some hardware that we need to make. So let's do that. These aren't anything super special, just some simple threaded studs. I am leaving the shanks a bit oversized though so that they can be press fit into place. And the 440 thread is pretty small, so I'll just use the die holder and a little bit of wrist power. After parting this off, I'll clean up the outer face, then repeat for a few different variations. Over on the drill press, I'll demonstrate my inability to learn a lesson the first time. Then after bending everything back to flat and using a power drill for the holes, we can start putting these together. Nice. That works surprisingly well. Now for that black infill. And to do that, I'm going to try my hand at a woodworker YouTuber's favorite topic, epoxy. But it didn't plan very well, so the only disposable cup I have on hand is this glittery one from a unicorn-themed party. After mixing up about 40 times more than I actually needed, I started drizzling it into the recess, breaking the surface tension to make sure that every nook and cranny was filled, then scraped away all the excess and let the self-leveling do the rest. And then, we wait. Or I could start on part 2 of the faceplate. That would be a good use of time. I could use the pantograph again. I already have the template printed, but let's mix it up. Like I said before, I need to use something borrowed. That, and I really want to use this. It's a Volstro rotary milling head. It was very generously donated by Mark from Texas on permanent loan as long as I have a use for it, so I have to start justifying not sending it back. If you're not familiar, I can tell you that those watching that already do know are getting the wiggles. So get ready. It clamps onto the mill's quill and basically lets me offset the cutter, which is cool and all, but not as cool as also being able to sweep the cutter in an arc. It's like the inverse of a rotary table. Instead of moving the part in a circle, it moves the spindle in a circle. So I can do cool stuff like this, which looks simple until you realize all the extra fixturing I would have to do to make this possible without this amazing tool. So it should have no problem making this clock face composed of a bunch of circles, even though I'll probably regret it. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. I've got a whole lot of holes to drill first. My goal for this is ideally for it to come out without any blemishes. And even though I'll be using a center cutting end mill for all this, they have a tendency to wobble around when plunging into metal, making a bigger hole than I want. So it's a good idea to pre-drill each and every one of these corner holes. Let's just not actually count how many there are. By the way, you can find these drawing magnets on my website. I'm making them myself and I'm putting a really stout neodymium magnet in them, and if you're lucky, you might even get some genuine shop swarf. I'm just kidding, I wouldn't do that on purpose. Alright, I think that's all of them. Let's do the fun part. I need to set the Volstro to a specific diameter, but the scale here looks like it's really only good for getting you in the neighborhood. So I'll take a test cut on a scrap piece to home in on the diameter, measuring what it cuts and then adjusting it until it's on the money. If all the angles and diameters are right, it should line up perfectly with the first hole where I can take a very out of focus first cut. Alright, I can say 2 things are for certain. 1, this is cool as hell. And 2, I'm going to be here for a while. Make that 3 things. The end mill hole isn't looking promising. It didn't take me long to get into a groove, and I soon realized that things are a lot easier to see without that blue dicum. That didn't help me see this coming though. As far as cutting directions, these first passes are all on the insides of the circles that will be left behind. So I'm running the Volstro counterclockwise between my starting and stopping angles, so as the end mill flexes, it moves away from the finished face on the inside of the circles. Then sweeping back clockwise cleans up that face to the dimension I want to hold. This all works great provided I read the vernier scale on the angle correctly, which I discovered about halfway through this plate that I was not. On the bright side, I did make it a lot further this time before breaking another mill. That's all the circle insides and it's starting to look like a thing, but we aren't even halfway. I'll adjust the head diameter down and fine tune it once again on the scrap plate, then I can work my way around all the perimeter mounting holes. After somehow not breaking a single end mill that time, I'll make another adjustment back up to the outside diameter of the circles, then fall victim to my own jinxing. I think I'll just stop talking now. The end at last. It looks like I got everything, but after delaminating it from the Lexan, I can see my work is not yet finished. With all the burrs out of the way, all the mistakes become quite apparent. From far away it looks fine, but if you look up close, all the overshot end mill cuts from reading the vernier scale backwards become painfully obvious. Then there are just silly blemishes like this that I don't even know. Far from perfect, but if you think about it, these all give it character, letting you know that someone actually made it with their own two hands. At least that's how I'm going to justify not breaking 6 more end mills to make it again only slightly better. Besides, once it's paired with this, nobody will even notice. Yeah, that epoxy job looks absolutely baller. I'm going to need to find some more excuses to use the rest of this. Moving on. Let's make the standoffs that will not only hold all this together, but also hold it in place. And despite my worst judgment, I made these a painfully boring design, just straight rods with threaded holes in the ends. But at least this way I won't break any more end mills. Now for the creme de la walnut, the board that all this will mount to. My original design called for just a simple board, with chamfered corners of course, but I think it could use a little bit of flair, like some inlay, which naturally requires the utmost precision. After surprisingly breaking not a single end mill that time, I'll also add the screw holes for the clock face and add a mounting pocket thingy on the backside. The brass inlay itself is just some square rod, so after roughly cutting all the pieces, I'll use the belt sander to miter them all to the correct length, making sure to overgrind at least half the pieces I originally cut. Always buy extra. And now for the best part, the finishing. That looks so good, but there is a small problem that I didn't see coming. The mounting ears for the clock movement are going to stick out like a sore thumb, and we can't have that. I did attempt to dismantle this with the idea of making new mounting hardware, but it's all annoyingly swaged together, which felt like a sign from the universe telling me not to let the scope creep even further on this project. So I'll just hack them off. Carefully, of course. Alright, that is everything. Only one thing left to do.
I haven't looked at it yet.
You know what it looks like, though, because you helped me design it.
All right.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
It looks way better than I thought it would.
I love the inlay on the back.
That was worth doing, right?
That was absolutely worth doing. The black is so punchy. Can I touch the epoxy? Is it dry?
Yeah, it's all dry.
I love the way that the light kind of bends around the epoxy because it's not perfectly flat.
Right.
I love the inlay. That's so pleasant.
Yep.
So didn't you say that the silver part was small?
I haven't solved that solution yet. I haven't solved that problem yet. I can't wind it.
Oh.
It's a 31-day clock, so I wound it before I put it together. 31 days to figure out how to do a little tiny scallop or something right there, but...
I mean, it wouldn't be that different than some of these other tiny scallops that you have going on here.
What are you saying?
This is far superior. This is fine, but I literally found this on a trailer on the side of the road, and the guy wanted $15 for it.
You got your fingerprints on it.
I did.
Yeah.
What?
I have a special rag for that. Oh, maybe you can give me some input. Because I have the key. I can put it there, the side, the top, the way it
What
looks.
if you just like... Did I uncomplicate something that you were unnecessarily complicating?
I wasn't going to complicate it. There's literally one screw. The more I look at that pattern, the it is.
So just back up. It's
Yeah.
fine. It kind of looks intentional.
You think so?
Mm-hmm. Because it's everywhere.
There's the page I invited down to the shop.
All right, so it isn't coasters, and it took me a bit longer to make than I thought it would, but Paige likes it. I had a pretty good time with this project, even though it felt a little bit out of my wheelhouse to make something that was mostly just meant to be pretty. You're probably asking, though, Brandon, why don't you just make your own clock? It's on my to-do list, okay? Baby steps. As always, thanks for watching, and see you next time.